Martial realms sign in. As Jin Tae-kyung and Chong Peng walk outside, Jin Wee-kyung looks at them silently from his window. Wee Peng said, after all that bullshit he's done, now he's trying to get this family exterminated. He actually messed with the Fire King. Jin Wee-kyung said, ho, that's already spilled water. We ought to turn the crisis into an opportunity. Is your shoulder all right? Wee Peng said, yeah, it's fine. Jin Wee-kyung said, so, how's the process of that matter? As Wee Peng was shocked, Wee Peng said, it's not easy. It seems a prohibition that's stronger than expected has been cast. Most died in the process of the interrogation, leaving only 3 of them still alive. Jin Wee-kyung said, only 3 left. Wee Peng said, yes. Jin Wee-kyung said, stop the interrogations. We must do whatever it takes to keep them alive. They're the only evidence we have now. Wee Peng said, yes, my lord. As Jin Wee-kyung sat down at the table, waited ages opportunity. The golden opportunity to take over the family. But the dark heaven didn't show themselves at all. It's as if this much is already enough for them. What the hell are they after? Wee Peng said, my lord, the dinner banquet is about to start. Jin Wee-kyung said, is that so? Let's get going then. The next day, a man hits the gong. As the soldiers form outside, Jin Wee-kyung looks at the crowd. As he shouts, the crowd listens. As the others wait for Jin Wee-kyung to speak, Jin Wee-kyung raises his hand. Suddenly, Lee Seo-wol walks inside. As she walks towards Jin Wee-kyung, and they pay respect to Jin Wee-kyung, and she looks at Jin Wee-kyung. Jin Wee-kyung also looks back at her with a smile. Suddenly, Jin Wee-kyung and her people kneel before Jin Wee-kyung. As the crowd suddenly cheers, the ladies enter with the food and drinks. A few moments later, Chol-woo, with steam coming out of his nose, said, that's so amazing! To the extent my heart was racing every single moment I was watching. Jin Tae-kyung said, I guess that left a pretty deep impression on you, huh? I'm not trying to brag here, but this much is nothing for the Jin family in Shanxi province. Chol-woo said, how could they be so beautiful? Jin Tae-kyung said, what did you just say? Ugh, are you talking about my big brother? Chol-woo said, what the hell are you talking about? I'm talking about the lady that came from the Mount Hang sword sect. Jin Tae-kyung said, Lady Lee Seo-wol? Phew. Chol-woo said, oh, you know her? Jin Tae-kyung said, well, to a certain extent. Chol-woo said, how do you know her? As Chong Peng devours the food on his side, Jin Tae-kyung said to himself, starting from the sexual harassment incident until her proposal to me. Jin Tae-kyung said, I don't feel like telling you. There's just too many things that have happened. But are you perhaps interested in her? Chol-woo said, what? Interested? Do I look interested in her? Jin Tae-kyung said, ah ha ha. Guess not, huh? Well, you were talking about your heart racing and all. As he pours himself wine, Chol-woo stood up and said, this is love. Jin Tae-kyung suddenly became silent and his cup overflows. Chol-woo said, I felt it from the moment I saw her, that my heart, which had never budged, would suddenly start to move. Jin Tae-kyung said, were you dead for 25 years then? Chol-woo, in love, said, that's right, until I met her, I was no different from a corpse. Jin Tae-kyung said, can't you please die for real then? Chol-woo said, no, from now on I can no longer live or die without her permission. As On-hyang trembles from Chol-woo's statement, Baek Mu-song just drinks wine in silence. On-hyang said to Baek Mu-song, senior brother, didn't he say something like that when he saw a beautiful disciple among the third-class disciples last year? Baek Mu-song said, yeah. The previous year, he said that when he saw an external disciple that visited our main sect briefly. As Jin Tae-kyung and Chol-woo try to listen, Chong Peng continues to eat with his mouth full of meat. Chol-woo said, senior brother, when did I do that? Jin Tae-kyung said, what the hell? You've basically confessed to everyone. Baek Mu-song said, want me to continue with the previous year? Yoon-hyang said, tisk tisk. Suddenly Lee Seo-wol said, Master Jin. As Jin Tae-kyung was shocked and looks in the direction of the voice, and he saw Lee Seo-wol. As Jin Tae-kyung sweats, Lee Seo-wol said, we meet again. Have you been well? Chol-woo looks back with joy as Jin Tae-kyung freezes. A few moments later at night, as the people continue to feast, Jin Wee-kyung said, how's everything? Jin Tae-kyung said, it's delicious, but is it okay for you to be here? It seems like they're all here with gifts to curry your favor, though. As the people shouted, Jin Tae-yuan, drink it all up. Jin Wee-kyung said, ho ho ho, the more desperate one is, the more they'll give. It's only the first day, yet don't you already look forward to the last day? Jin Tae-kyung gives a thumbs up and said, damn me, you're a true politician. Jin Wee-kyung said. But Tae-kyung, why is the Destruction Bloom Fist acting like that? He doesn't look well. Is he sick? As Chol-woo drinks alone and sat in a corner. Jin Tae-kyung said, about that. As Jin Tae-kyung sweats and scratches his face. Earlier that day, Chol-woo said to Lee Se-wol, "Hello, I'm Chol-woo from the Manhwa sect." Jin Tae-kyung said, "Take your arms off me." Chol-woo said, "I'm an old friend of his." Jin Tae-kyung said, "More like arch enemies." Chol-woo said, "Since it's fate that we've met here, would you like to take a seat beside me?" Jin Tae-kyung said, "He's doing all that nonsense because you're pretty. Don't fall for it." Lee Se-wol said, Really?" Jin Tae-kyung said, "Yes, can't you tell? His eyes already say it all." Lee Se-wol said, "No, I don't mean that." Jin Tae-kyung, confused, said, "Pardon?" Lee Se-wol said, "So you think I'm pretty then?" Jin Tae-kyung said, "Wait a minute, how did it turn into this? That's not what I meant. I mean, it's not that you're not pretty. What I mean is..." As Chol-woo cries a river while he listens to Jin Tae-kyung and Lee Se-wol talking to each other. Jin Tae-kyung said, "He's probably just not really feeling it today, I guess." As Chong-pung lets out a full burp loud, Jin Wee-kyung said, Suddenly Chu Do-hwan arrived and said, "Warrior Jin." Jin Tae-kyung was confused. Chu Do-hwan said, "I'm Chu Do-hwan from Hinan's Iron Blood sect." Jin Wee-kyung said, "Oh, Iron Fist Chu Do-hwan, I've heard much about you. What is a disciple of the Iron Blood sect doing here, though?" Chu Do-hwan said, "I've come to request a spar." Jin Wee-kyung said, "A spar, right?" Chu Do-hwan looks at Chol-woo and said, "Yes, my apologies, but I'd like to spar with the Destruction Bloom Fist warrior Chol-woo." Chol-woo, still crying, looks at Chu Do-hwan confused and said, "Me?" Chu Do-hwan said, "Let's find out whose fists are stronger." As the crowd said, "A spar? That's the Iron Fist Chu Do-hwan. Out of nowhere, a spar so suddenly? I guess he wants to fight one of the ultimate Plum Blossom trio." Chol-woo said, "This is great since I was feeling a little down. I accept your request." Jin Wee-kyung said, "Are you okay with so many people watching?" Baek Musong said, "Of course. We'd be thankful that we're able to raise the excitement on such a great day as one of your guests." Jin Wee-kyung said, "All right then, we'll accept your request, Warrior Chu." Chu Do-hwan said, "Thank you." Jin Wee-kyung said, "And not just for you. Anyone who wishes to spar, please feel free to step up. We'll present 100 silver nyangs and an amazing weapon suitable for the final victory." As the crowd cheers loud and lively, as Jin Tae-kyung looks down, and he said to himself, "Iron Fist Chu Do-hwan." Chu Do-hwan looked serious and confident. He was level 65 Chu Do-hwan. Jin Tae-kyung said to himself, "He'll probably get beaten to death though." The fight begins as Chol-woo and Chu Do-hwan's fists hit, and they punch each other with incredible speed. As Chu Do-hwan feels the pain in his fist, he steps back and said in pain, "Kuh!" Chol-woo said, "Are you really the Iron Fist? Why do your fists feel so soft? Your punches aren't too bad, but they're no match for mine. Just surrender." Chu Do-hwan charges forward and said, "No way. It's not over until it's really over." Chol-woo said, "Well, you sure are a stubborn one." As Chol-woo punches his gut with incredible force, Chu Do-hwan feels the pain in his stomach. As he drops to the ground, the crowd cheers and a bald man said, "The Destruction Bloom Fist is the strongest." His friend said, "I thought things might be different since the Iron Fist is pretty famous, but I guess he's still no match for one of the ultimate Plum Blossom trio." Jin Wee-kyung said, "The winner is Manhwa sect's Destruction Bloom Fist. The winner will have to continue accepting challenges and fight until there are no challengers left to be the ultimate winner." So then, is anyone else up for the challenge? Lee Se-wol said, "Would anyone even step up?" Jin Tae-kyung said, "Who would step up after seeing what happened to the Iron Fist? Haha, I bet my hand that no one will step up." Suddenly a man stood up and said, "I'm Hwang family's Hwang Jin-soo. I'd like to challenge the Destruction Bloom Fist." As Jin Tae-kyung silently sweats and Lee Se-wol holds his arm and smiles, Hwang Jin-soo comes forward. Hwang Jin-soo suddenly makes a stance and unsheaths his sword. In an instant, Chol-woo punches the life out of Hwang Jin-soo's ugly face. Jin Tae-kyung said to himself, "You should have just stayed sitting. Why would you even come up when you're level 25? Lee Se-wol sweats and said, "What about now?" Jin Tae-kyung said, "You saw that, right? Someone who suffered a greater defeat than the Iron Fist? Haha, I'm certain this time around. I bet my other hand that no one will step up now." Suddenly a man said, "Gal Moyo," and he walks up and said, "I might be just a nameless vagrant, but I'd like to challenge you," as he holds his staff and makes a stance with his stick. Gal Moyo said, "Bring it on." Suddenly Chol-woo punches his face to become ugly, and he said in pain, "Kyuk," as his tooth comes out. Lee Se-wol said, "What about now?" Jin Tae-kyung said, "I'll bet my left foot." Another came up and said, "I'm Cheon Won-chang of the Tyrant faction." Chol-woo punches his chin in an instant. Lee Se-wol said, "How about now?" Jin Tae-kyung said, "My right." Another came up and said, "I'm Chu-duk-man." As Chu-duk-man is being escorted by the medical team away, another said, "I, Sun Pil-gyeon, would like to challenge you." Chol-woo immediately punches him. Jin Tae-kyung bites his nail in frustration, saying to himself, "Does that guy have honey on his fists or what? Why do people keep challenging him? What should I do if she really asks me for my limbs? If I cut one of them at a time as I level up?" Lee Se-wol covers his lips and said, "Pfft, don't worry, I won't ask you for your limbs." As Jin Tae-kyung sweats and bites his nails, he suddenly said, "Really?" Lee Se-wol said, "In return, I want you to fulfill one request of mine." Jin Tae-kyung said, "What is it?" Lee Se-wol said, "That's, I want you." Chol-woo suddenly shouts with all of his lungs, saying, "Sleeping Dragon of Shang-chi." Lee Se-wol and the others were shocked. Chong-pung stopped eating. Chol-woo, with his finger, asks Jin Tae-kyung to come. Level 95 Chol-woo has chosen to spar with you. Chol-woo said, "Jin Tae-kyung, come out here. Quest. There's a man who loves you a lot, has appeared. Will you accept this quest? Accept. Decline. If you decline, you'll receive the title, Weak Male." Jin Tae-kyung suddenly froze in shock and reads the notification. "There's a man who loves you a lot. The jealousy and anger of a man who loves a woman a lot has expressed his feelings. You must defeat him to obtain love. Level, peak, limit, Jin Tae-kyung. Mission, win the fight. Incomplete. If you succeed, experience points and honor. If you fail, obtain nickname, Weak Male," Jin Tae-kyung said to himself. Who the fuck came up with this quest? A few moments later, Jin Tae-kyung takes a spear and walks towards the arena as the crowd cheers, saying, "Sleeping Dragon of Shang-chi, Sleeping Dragon of Shang-chi, Destruction Bloom Fist, Destruction Bloom Fist." Baek Mu-song said to Jin Wee-kyung, "We must stop them from fighting." Jin Wee-kyung said, "I don't know why, but it seems there's some tension between them. Wouldn't it be great to use this chance and release all that tension?" Baek Mu-song said, "I'm not trying to underestimate Sleeping Dragon of Shang-chi right now, but once that junior brother of mine gets angry, it's very hard to stop him. If we let them continue, I'm certain someone will get very injured. Should we stop it before it happens?" Jin Wee-kyung said, "Who are you referring to?" Baek Mu-song looks at Jin Wee-kyung and said, "Pardon?" As Chong-pung continues to eat, Jin Wee-kyung said, "The match hasn't even started. The results have yet to be decided. I think my brother will win, just as he always does." As Baek Mu-song looks at him silently, Baek Mu-song said to himself, "He's wrong. While it's true that the Sleeping Dragon of Shang-chi is an astounding and talented martial artist, Chol-woo has greater experience, martial arts, and internal energy. However, the crowd continues to say, "Shang-chi, I go for it. Destruction Bloom Fist. Sleeping Dragon." Baek Mu-song said to himself, "If we stop the match now, it'll definitely impact both their family and our sex reputation negatively. I'll step in when the time is right." As he walks forward, and Chong-pung continues to get buns on the table, as Chong-pung takes a bite, and he stops. As the crowd cheers, "Whoa, whoa, go for the win, Sleeping Dragon of Shang-chi, Shang-chi, Sleeping Dragon. Start fighting already, Destruction Bloom Fist, beat him up." Jin Tae-kyung said, "Hey, wave to them a little too. Don't you know you're only famous if you have fans?" Chol-woo said, "You and that nonsense of yours again. Make sure you do a good job at waving then, since you'll be staring at the infirmary ceiling for the next 3 months after this." As he puts on his knuckles in guard, Jin Tae-kyung spins his spear and said, "Seriously, let's hear it. Why are you acting like this towards me?" "Oh, your gear looks pretty good." Chol-woo said, "Do you really not know?" Jin Tae-kyung said, "Could it be because you got dumped before you confessed?" Chol-woo said in anger, "I didn't get dumped. If you hadn't gotten in my way, I'd have been living a happy life with 3 kids. Jin Tae-kyung said, "Isn't that progressing way too fast, you lunatic?" As Chol-woo stomps the ground in anger, the tile shatters. Chol-woo said, "Enough with the chit-chat. I promise you this, you won't walk out of here." As his aura rages, Jin Tae-kyung prepares his stance and said, "Well, shit, then I'll make you crawl out of here. I'll crush that frivolous mouth of yours." As Chol-woo jumps towards Jin Tae-kyung, as he growls, Jin Tae-kyung raises his spear, and their weapons clash brightly. Thanks for tuning in. I truly appreciate each and every one of you who took the time to watch this video. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider sharing my videos or channel with your friends who might also enjoy it. Your support means the world to me and helps my channel grow. Let's keep this community thriving together. Until next time, See you in the next video.